Good morning on this bright third Sunday of Easter. I'm out and about in the city of Seattle delivering the worship resources and have just dropped the last one off for the services that start in an hour. I'm late for worship practice, so I thought I would punch out a devotional. What else can one do? The scripture reading for this morning is taken from the book of Matthew, chapter 4. And I will be reading from the temptations of Jesus, particularly the second temptation as recorded. After that, verse 5, chapter 4, Matthew. After that, the devil brought him into the holy city and stood him at the highest point of the temple. He said to him, "Since you are God's son, throw yourself down, for it is written, I will command my angels concerning you, and they will take you up in their hands so that you won't hit your foot against a stone." Jesus replied, "Again, it's written, don't test the Lord, your God." This is from my coming book, Down and Dirty, week 2. And this is Tuesday or Wednesday of the week. I think it's Wednesday. The invocation is, "Lord, in the darkness that is my soul, plant a seed that will grow even in the desert places of my life." The quote of the week is, "The house of my soul is too small for you to enter. Make it more spacious by your coming. It lies in ruins. Rebuild it. Some things are to be found there which will offend your gaze. I confess this to be so, and know it well. But who will clean my house?" That's from Attend by Laura Davis, Werzak, page number 17. And it's a requote of St. Augustine from his Confessions, and I would suggest you get her book, Attend. It is an excellent devotional book. The Temptations. I'm going to get on the road because otherwise I'm going to be late to the service, so we're going to kind of do this driving down. However, I do want to read a part of the text from Psalm 69 that is also part of the week's reading, just the first part of it. "Save me, God, because the waters have reached my neck. I have sunk into deep mud. My feet can't touch the bottom. I have entered deep water. The flood has swept me up. I am tired of crying. My throat is hoarse. My eyes are exhausted with waiting for my God." We find Jesus in this text at just exactly that point. He has been now 40 days into his journey, and forgive me because I'm trying to reach for the storyline. He's 40 days into his journey, and he has, as we had from the last reading, yesterday's reading, actually it was last week's, 1 week ago, when I actually did it physically. But in the first temptation, I realized afterwards it was a very poorly written. I've rewritten that scene about 4 times, and so I redid it again after last week's because the timing is all wrong and trying to get 2 dreams on top of each other, and I think I may have finally got there. But in that Jesus is remembering his first beginning encounters with his hunger in Gedi, and with dreams that he had of 6 cobras. And then he's taken deeper into the story, into a second vision of where he's really dreaming about dreaming, and he confronts Satan for the first time over the bread. And then the last thing he does is he falls to the ground out of absolute exhaustion, and how long he's out, only God knows. My hand moves slightly, my fingers clawing through the sandy surface, opening my eyes ever so lightly. All was blur. The voice that had been faint, mumbling, became clear over time. "Yeshua, chosen of God, you've fallen. You're in a cave in the desert where your father has led you." The voice, being smooth and deep, seemed to relax me in its rhythms. But why did he try to pronounce my papa's name? The thought evaporated as the pain of my hands and my head came to the fore, followed quickly by the gnawing hunger. Why, I wondered. I've not felt hunger in days. Here, take my hand, Yeshua, and let me help you up. An arm reached under my shoulder, and his hand grasped mine as we together brought me to the rest on the rock that had been my chair of comfort in these long days alone in a place far from my mama and brothers and sisters. It was also the rock upon which I had seen, or thought I had seen, the baked bread. My brother Jude flashed before me like a mist suddenly evaporating. The thought of Jude being in charge at home somehow gave small comfort. I turned my head to look upon my guest, careful not to make eye contact, which in many cultures I knew, including my own, was a display of arrogant power. He was beautiful. Handsome was not the word to describe him, for there was an elegance I had not seen since I know him. Well, since I cannot remember. Tell me, Yeshua, why here? Why this mountain, known to the people of this region as Moses Mountain? He must be a local, the thought floating across my foggy mind like a soft, fluffy cloud. But why is he dressed like a king, his garments spotless and white? I was led here, I responded. Led, his voice echoing, but in a tone of disbelief. Led, so that you could be left to die hungry and alone? The question of my visitor, together with a fresh smell of baked bread, shot through me like a dagger. A part of me simply wanted to run away from this place and go home, to push down the burden I'd known since childhood of being chosen for some special purpose, though I still did not know the full measure of it. Looking slowly up, I peered directly into the eyes of my inquisitor, thus risking a cultural offense, and added, I was led to this place by the holy cloud of God, God's very breath. I am not alone. Not alone, the visitor asked with a light and dismissive laugh, shifting his weight to free his left hand as if for emphasis. He had taken a seat on a rock surface against the wall of a great cavern, apparently, and without asking, as was the custom would dictate, even if a king, I thought. My mind was awakening to an inner discomfort that mirrored the pain I had felt from my previous fall. My guest continued, You are quite right, and are you not the Holy One of the Majesty itself? A question. My thoughts quickened, and not an affirmation. And how would this stranger know? So I turned away, looking out of the cavern, again curious as to the smell of bread. Allow me, the visitor stood, and walking over to me, offered his left hand, his right pointing toward the cavern's opening. Slowly, hesitantly, I took the offered hand, steadied myself, and walked the 20 or so steps to the cliff just outside, leaning upon the grace offered, given my weakness from hunger and thirst and the fall. The visitor's touch was cool, even cold, unlike the warmth of blood flowing through my own depleted body. Glancing his direction for only a second time, but he looks like Adam must have been at creation's first breath, my mind countered. As we approached the cliff, my grasp on the stranger tightened as fear of yet a greater fall into the vast ocean of sand and sage took hold. Look at the eternal city, my guest announced, as if its king. And it was. Jerusalem lay before us. How? We standing high above the Kidron Valley atop the holy temple itself. Below were vendors preparing for the day's gathering of worshippers, hungry and in need of offering for sin to atone. A baker was singing not 90 feet below, the smell of bread so strong I wanted to simply walk off the edge of the temple wall and into the aroma that called. Hold on, my friend. My visitor's grip on my arm tightened as if to protect. Be careful. You are still human and subject to the Majesty's laws. Grateful, I set my foot firmly into the sandstone, now bathed in the warmth of Jerusalem's golden sun, and noted that it was the second time a visitor could not pronounce my papa's name. Yahweh, I responded. My papa's name is Yahweh. I'm just so hungry. And the smell, yes, and the smell so intoxicating. Forgive me, Your Majesty, for you're wiser than I. Letting go of me so he was free of me, and standing inches from the chasm below, he added, even as my body shook and swayed under the weight of exhaustion, perhaps this is the moment of need to which the ancient wisdom applies. How is it? He will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Are you not the son of promise? Then throw yourself down in trust. For what seemed a very long moment, my hunger and desires and doubts intertwined. I looked down upon my hands and feet. Were they not torn by the days in the wilderness, and did they not bleed from my previous fall? Am I, screamed with my heart, am I really the Son of the Most High? Then looking up and out over the great valley and speaking softly as if in a whisper intended for only my Poppy, I added, never have you spoken in questions of anxiety, only sentences ending in periods or exclamation marks. The visitor leaned in. I couldn't quite get that. What are you wanting to say? Turning my head and looking deep into my visitor's eyes, I saw a vast darkness, even as they twinkled in shades of cold light. I answered him. It is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Then once more, I collapsed as the ground rose up to meet me. Well, that's the second of the temptations. I think a better rendering than the first. You have to forgive as I'm turning corners here, and you're going to lose me in part of this, but it will go away. Need to get down the road or I'm going to be late for worship. So we're deep into this COVID-19 thing, and the original arguments, forget that thing that's going to go for a while because I never buckle my seatbelt because I'm from the generation of the 60s and rebellious and yeah, all of that. When I was a child, and to this day, driving is what I really enjoy. When I was a child, the whole world, I hope I can turn a corner without losing you here. I'm going to try by not turning too far. Oh, there we go. The whole world in the back seat, again, that noise will go in a moment. The whole world in the back seat was full of all that I could imagine or be or feel or experience because there were no seat belts to combine in those days. We were totally, wonderfully free. And yeah, so to this day, I totally get why we have seatbelt laws and all that kind of thing. It all makes perfect sense. But yeah, something in me does not want to do that. You'll have to forgive. Anyway, the police are a little less forgiving, I have to admit. Anyway, I woke up this morning pretty depressed. My mental health is not what it used to be. It doesn't take much to pour me into that. And I'm reflecting, it was a couple of things. First of all, I've been stuck for 2 days in the house, writing, doing finances. I hate doing finances because it brings up all kinds of past feelings of guilt and stuff when I worked in business for 10 years and was at the heart of the industry and struggled, not because we were doing wrong things, we weren't. We were a business based on a great deal of integrity, but to this perfectionist evangelical's young mind, fairness, which is the heart of capitalism, is not the same as justice, and I just wrestled with everything. So when I was writing not contracts, but trying to finish the second round with the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan, my pastor asked me to set up for our church. And like any government program, even Streamline, it's still full of lots of bureaucracy. And just weaving through that, I was just exhausted. Finished last night about 10 o'clock and sent the second one off, second request for information off. And just was in the house, not out, and depressed. And then because I've lost so much weight over the last year and a half, I don't think my meds have been adjusted, and so my body's gone back to its jerking, and I'm getting less and less sleep, and so very, very tired. If I wasn't doing this right now, I might be falling asleep while driving down the road, for example. And so anyway, I just woke up depressed and had to get some things delivered to some people that I couldn't get to yesterday because of all the other work. And just the whole COVID-19 thing pouring down, and knowing I was going to be late to practice, worship practice, etc., 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 and what is ahead for this day, etc. Just weighing down. Things like are normal, not heavy, just things like you and I go through. Frustrated by all the arguments among my Christian friends on both sides. Saddened not with both perspectives. They both have validity, and who knows which is right. And I hope the one with the least amount of death and the least and the easiest transition back to economic vitality is the correct choice. Always have. But at the same time, what saddens me in the arguments is the inability even of Christians to be gracious, to recognize that we don't know, that we, like Jesus, are just human. Just is the wrong word with him, but in terms of reality, in terms of what he experienced, just human. That was the whole point of his mission. We don't control things. This is hard because we as Americans want to control our reality and have come to almost believe we can keep everything safe and we can control it. And so every little thing builds upon another, just as past guilt, not for horrible things by any means, but past perfectionist guilt piles on top of an assignment I'm doing right now. The same happens for you and me, and we're stuck in a house, and all those things pile on top of each other, and it's really easy to get sidetracked. The lesson from today is the same as what it's been in many respects. Jesus understood that religion is not magic. Religion isn't testing reality by refusing to obey the best of wisdom and asking our people to come together and risk their lives because somehow God's going to deliver us. That's testing God. That's not wisdom. Whatever one believes, there's no wisdom in that. We're human. We go through human experiences, but we do so together. Delivering the resources today was and has been each one a pleasure, and we do it so that the communion comes from the heart of the community. We have gloves on our hands. I have my mask and all of that, and we take every possible precaution, but it's important, including the way we sterilize the area and the way we prepare. But it's important that we have connection, and the body and blood of Jesus Christ is what connects us. Whatever political side we're on, whatever race, gender, whatever our gender orientation, whatever we perceive, whatever losses, whatever guilt, it is God who is sovereign, not we. It is God's love that is the basis of our worth. Remember that today, as Jesus did so long ago in his own time of social isolation.